The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Miguel Azalina, joined by my good buddy, Regzy Boo. New year, new Azzy and Regz. That's the way it is.
You found something new. Now you're Miguel now. I'm not sure what's new with me.
That just came to me in the midst of
I
it all.
know.
I'm not sure why. I'm not going to go by that. We're not going
That's
by
not
that.
the new. That's
this
not the new alias.
No,
No?
we're going to
All
stick to Azzy or Mike or Michael or
All
Michael
right.
Thomas. We're going to cook with that, I think, right now. We're going to cook with that. Happy New Year, buddy.
Likewise, pal. Mine was very
Did you have a
uneventful.
good yeah, same.
We've never been New
Same.
Year's people. Not that we don't enjoy it. Like we'll watch the shows and watch the ball drop and all that. But, we're just not. It's always been a time. Ange always took it when she had to work at the hospital. She took it as like a holiday to work because we just, we were like, we don't do anything. We're not trying to like go out or be at some big party for all hours of the day. So yeah, I think she fell asleep for a little bit, and then I woke her up a little bit before the ball drop, and that was it. Very, very low key.
Yeah, with me just getting over being sick, we decided to kind of park it here. We did go to dinner with some friends, which was really nice, at a brewery nearby. But usually, like, we do go somewhere. Like, we usually go to a friend's house. Last year we went to a buddy of mine house and his wife. They threw a nice little. It was really low key, like 5 couples, like
Mhm.
just super chill, played games, hung out. There was a time, like out of school, where Andrea and I would get together with like Dan Mole and his wife Ashley and like a bunch of other people, and we'd get like rent a cabin in the Poconos, and we'd go up there on like the 30th. Spend like the day there on the
I feel
30th.
like I
or, like, the
remember
29th.
those. I feel like I remember you
Oh
doing
my
that.
gosh. Yeah, that would get ugly real fast, because like at that point you're still in like party mode.
Yeah.
So we did that for a while, but this year, like I gotta be honest, man, like it was nice. We were back from dinner at like 8:30, and I put on my like PJs
Yep.
and I sat on the couch, and I turned on like the shows, right?
Yep.
Like the Ryan Seacrest. And,
I don't know if I've ever felt more old watching them. I think I knew 3 artists on the one
Yeah,
show.
dude.
Like
well,
a
LL
bunch.
Cool J.
Right. LL Cool J, and like I guess I know Megan Thee Stallion. I've heard of her. I don't proclaim to listen to much of her stuff.
Hey, wait, say that name again.
What is it? Is it The Stallion? Isn't it like
Yeah, I just wanted
THEE
to
or
hear you say the
something?
whole thing. Like I
Yeah.
just thought
I
it was, I
didn't-
thought you said it.
It felt weird saying it, honestly. I think that's why I paused like halfway through.
Megan the
Yeah.
Stallion.
Yeah. But there were like a couple people who came up, and I looked at Angela. I was like, I've never heard of that person in my entire life.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's a totally different like world. Like who was the one guy that was on the Country Singers, like country rock? Like, he's a bigger guy, and I'm drawing a blank on his name now. And I was like, who is this guy? Like,
Oh, the really big guy?
yeah, he had like a food name.
Yeah. What's his name? Damn. I'm
Was it
gonna
like
look
Lollipop or something like that? Like,
it up. Oh gosh. All right, hold on. I got it.
yeah, you'll find it. But like, I also turned on. Andrea really likes
Jelly
the one
Roll.
dude-
There it is.
Jelly Roll. That's it. Lollipop. I said. Jelly Roll. Yeah. So like I was like, who's this guy? But Andrea really likes the dude on Bravo who does like the show with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
Mhm.
I forget his name. But he does like all like the reality talk shows on
Yeah.
Bravo.
It's Andy something, isn't it?
It is Andy something. That's right. But but like they just get hammered.
Yeah.
They just take shots
Yeah.
all night, and by midnight they're like just ripped.
Yeah.
And like Neil Patrick Harris was on this year with them, and so we watched a little bit of that too. But then like midnight hit, we also watched Megan Thee Stallion. We watched one Green Day performance,
Yeah.
and then went to bed and turned it on up there, and that was it. Like I was, usually you go somewhere and you're not in bed until like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
This way I was in bed at like 12:30. It was freaking awesome. I think it might be my New Year's thing.
That's it.
Do you have any resolutions this year?
I'm going.
Such a cliche question.
It is. I'm not drinking during January. I'm not drinking beer during January.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to walk. There's two more. I'm trying to walk 20 minutes a day every day. And then I'm trying to get back into reading before I go to bed.
I love it.
Instead of watching stupid YouTube videos like I have been doing.
Scrolling.
Do something
scrolling
less. Yeah.
What are you reading right now? Did you start a book?
I just did. I bought a couple just literally tonight after I charged up my Kindle because it had been dead for a while. I had started listening to, again, this is very boring, but I started listening to a podcast. I'm a big World War II nut. So I started listening to another podcast that I just found, and they have like 500 plus episodes. So I've been rolling through them. But it's by two authors / historians. So I've gone back and I bought like 3 of the one guy's books that I'm going to start reading. So they're like, there's like a series of them.
That's awesome. I'm just wrapping a book right now, called Stolen Focus. And it's wild. Like it's all about the things that take your focus away and how to get it back. And one of them is like, screen before bed. Like it talks specifically about how like our ancestors would do all their hunting, gathering, whatever. And then like when the sun went down, like when the sun started to go down, that was their sign to start heading back home. And that was like their last burst of energy. So like that burst of energy lasts like an hour. So like for us, when we have like any kind of unnatural light, we actually don't have our like final burst of energy until we turn that unnatural light off.
Right.
So like super interesting. That's just one of the things that pulls your focus away. But I'm finished. I have like 10 pages left in that book. But I do try and read a little bit before bed every night. It's a really good one, Regz. I'm anxious to see how it goes and what those books are like.
Yeah, I'm good. I love them. I'm such a nut for that stuff, and I haven't read a good one in a while. And I love these two guys on this podcast. Like I could listen to them all day long. They're knowledgeable. Awesome. They're funny. Like they keep it interesting. And so like I'm really excited to read his books because of course he talks about them on the podcast. And again, I'm listening to like podcasts that are 6 years old at this point because I just started from one and I've just been rolling through them. So of course he like talked about while he was writing the one, the one guy did like the audio book for it. So I'm going to listen to that once I'm done reading it. But yeah, I'm excited. I haven't had anything. I've been waiting for that damn Game of Thrones book to be done. George, like I freaking binge read six books of that before the TV show. And it's like the last big chunk of thing that I read. But I told myself I was going to read every book before the show started. And I did. I got through every single one of them. And now he won't just frickin' put out the last book already so we could be done with this.
He's being a little selfish, honestly. If you ask me, it's just a little selfish.
He's milking it a little bit at this point. He's milking it a little bit.
Come on now, George.
Come on, George.
Stop being selfish. We're all here for that book. I'm not. Everybody else is. But do it. Just do it. You know what's good about listening to a podcast like that back? Like World War II is already old as shit, right?
Yeah,
so like you like there's no
I'm only learning new things. Yeah, I'm only learning new things.
Right. Like nothing's changing from that.
No.
If someone goes back and listens to our podcast, there's, things that don't make as much sense now.
That's very true. That's very true.
But if you're really interested in going back and listening, go back and listen.
Listen, there's some good ones in there.
I'm not here to stop you.
There's
I mean, I'm
some-
not here to. Who am
There's
I?
some good ones in there.
So I don't actually. My resolution is trying to do more good this year. Like, and what I mean by that is like trying to volunteer with my time. Like that's one of my things this year. I've always wanted to volunteer, but I've never had the time to do it. And I feel like this year I actually have the time to do it. I'm just looking for the right place to volunteer and like what is the way? Like where do I want to go? What do I want to do? That and also to read more. I read 22 books last year. I'm setting the goal a little higher this year. Like I'm looking to get upwards toward 50.
There you
so
go.
I'm really going for it. I did ask Andrea, my one ask for Christmas was the full Harry Potter series. I've never read them. I've never seen the movies.
Oh,
So
very interesting.
here I go. Like that as soon as I'm done with these last 10 pages.
That's the
what's
next
the
thing,
first
huh?
one? What's the first book? Is it like the
Sorcerer's Stone.
Sorcerer's Stone? Okay. Have you read them?
I have.
Do you like them?
See, I will say this. I very much enjoyed them. I very much enjoyed the films or the movies.
Mhm.
I am not like a Harry Potter nut by
Okay.
any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
I would call myself a much bigger Lord of the Rings fan if I had to choose
Okay.
one.
Mhm.
But still enjoyed them. Enjoyed
Okay.
every book, enjoyed every movie.
So
But
my
yes, I
brother-in-law,
have gotten through all of them.
my brother-in-law is a Harry Potter like freak.
Yeah.
Like he loves them. So he's like, you got to text me as you're going through it. Like I need updates. The whole thing. So I'm excited to start my Harry Potter journey here. Cheer me on.
Yeah.
You know,
You're not a
I'm
huge fantasy guy.
I'm
So
not.
this is
I'm
like a
not.
little bit of a step to the side for you.
It's out of the comfort zone, but Regs, you don't grow in your comfort zone. So like you got to step out and spread your wings and look, it's time. I'm going to see how it feels. You're right. I'm not a fantasy person. Like I've never been.
Yeah.
It's not my forte. Like I watched a little bit of The Walking Dead and like got through a lot of it, and I think that's probably the most fantasy that
Mhm.
you'll get from me. Like I don't think I go much further than that.
Yeah.
So this will be different.
This
for
will
me.
be
I'm
very
excited.
interesting.
I'm excited. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah,
Keep you
absolutely.
posted. We'll keep everybody posted.
I remember I'm not a huge fantasy person either, but I just know that like there's certain things that at different times in my life have really like got me hooked.
Mm-hmm.
Way back when I was a kid, Star Wars came out with a bunch of X-Wing books
Got you.
that like they must have had 30 versions of this, series. Read every one multiple times. Was just hooked. I don't know why, just absolutely hooked. And then I read the Harry Potter ones. I can't remember when. It must have been high school, I would imagine, is when that stuff was kind of starting to come out. And I think I just jumped right in and read them. And then, I put it down for a while. I got back into the history stuff. And then the Game of Thrones is when I jumped back in a little bit. I read like the Lord of the Rings books in between then, in between there sometime. But
yeah,
it'll be interesting. I'm interested to hear if you're.
I don't know if I'm gonna.
If it
I don't know if
piques
I'm
your
gonna
interest.
I don't know if I'm gonna do them all consecutively. Like I have a bunch of books that I want to sort of read in the midst of it too. So we'll see how that sort of goes. Like I got like the Will Smith memoir that I want to read. I've been like super pumped about. Andrea got me the memoir of the lead singer of the Foo Fighters.
Oh,
Because
Dave
he wrote
Grohl,
one,
right?
like Dave Grohl. It's called Storyteller, which is like again like right in my wheelhouse. So, and I love like I've gotten this like newfound love for memoirs. Like
Yeah.
since writing one, like I feel like now I want to read every memoir I can get my hands on. and I've heard his is incredible. So, I think I'm gonna kind of alternate. I might do like the first 2 books and then read a different one just to give a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
a breather. Maybe even watch a movie in there while
There you
I
go.
navigate it. So we'll see, but a lot of new for us, Rags. A lot of new on the
There you go.
horizon.
We
Can't
thought we
wait.
had nothing new, but we found some
Like
things.
I said, new year, new Azzy, new Rex. This is, new Azzy, new Regs. Azzy's taking on the world of fantasy, and Regs is learning about World War II all over again. Just a new lens to look through. So can't wait. This is what we'll do: a World War II fact and Azzy's reaction to the Harry Potter world.
All right.
We'll just do a little
We can
corner
do
of
that.
our podcast. We're gonna end up with a new podcast, I feel like, out of this.
Maybe.
How do you tie the two of those together? I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
So we got a pretty stacked show for everybody today, man. Might as well get into it. We're gonna really hone in on some Philly stuff, some Eagle stuff. We're not gonna talk a whole lot about the Sixers. Not a lot has happened since we last checked in. One good little, I feel like, solid piece of just reminder for everybody is that Joel Embiid's really freaking good at basketball.
He's playing pretty good right now.
Just real quickly, I didn't mention this to you before the show, but did I send you, or did you see the quotes from Pat Bev on his podcast the other day?
I did see them.
Holy moly! Is that hyperbole? Like, what are we talking?
It's a little
Rex?
bit. I think.
Okay.
Look, I think is he having one of the best statistical seasons we might have ever seen? Yes. Like I don't think I don't think you could really deny that just when you look at the sheer numbers of it. Like, look, they're not the Warriors winning 72 games. You know what I mean? Like they're not, he's not on his third championship run. He's not trying to win a third championship in a row. Right. So I think when you look historically, I think when you talk about like the greatest seasons ever, I personally tend to look at what that season achieved more than perhaps the individual statistics. But I think if you're just breaking it down into like, this is one of the best individual statistical seasons that anybody has had ever. Again, I don't think there's much denying that. I just like, for me personally, I tend to look a little bit into like, okay, well, what did that translate into? But again, I'm not knocking the fact that it might be one of the greatest statistical seasons anybody's ever put up. Yeah.
And who knows? It could turn into the ultimate achievement if he keeps playing like this. The one thing that I found interesting in what he said, and I should have given context if you didn't hear. He basically, Pat Beverly on his podcast came out. This is hands down the most dominant season that a player has ever had, and without mentioning much, said that it's up there with that conversation.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think stuck out to me the most was when he was like, there are big guys I played with, guys that I know personally, that don't even talk to Joe. Like they won't even talk to him on the court because they like, what do you say? You can't trash talk him.
Right.
He does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, the pass he threw to Toby the other night in traffic, dude, there are guards that can't make that pass. And that's been one of the things that we've criticized about Joe over the course of his career is his ability to make passes like that. Now, it wasn't out of a double or anything like that, but he is also being doubled far less this year because of what's around him.
Right.
So, we'll pick that back up later, probably next week as they have more games coming up here in the coming week. Some challenging games. Their schedule's going to turn a little bit here. But for today, just know Joel's really good at basketball. Jumping over to the Phils. Let's start with the Hall of Fame stuff. We haven't talked about this in quite a bit of time. So I think it's nice to sort of mention where everything lies right now. I think there are about 100. I had it up a moment ago. I feel like last I checked, there were 109 ballots in.
Okay.
And it looks like that's still the case. That is 28% of the ballots, I think. Which is crazy. I think there's like almost 400 ballots that get put in. So they're a quarter of the way, a little over a quarter of the way there. And here's where we're at. So Bobby Abreu is in his 5th year on the ballot. He's got 19.3% of the vote. He is down 2 voters, which kind of shocked me. But that's okay. He's probably going to stick on the ballot a little while. He's just going to stick.
Yep.
Billy Wagner is his 9th year on the ballot. So, he's got 1 more year after this. It doesn't look like he's going to need it. He's in a weird spot because we don't know all the ballots. Not everybody releases.
Yeah.
So it could go 5% in either direction.
Right.
Like he could end up at 76%. He could end up at 90%. My guess is Billy gets in this year. Which would make it 2 controversial Phillies in back-to-back seasons. Because we thought Roland was controversial.
Yeah.
Roland kept to himself quite a bit. Billy made it very clear he didn't like it here. Scott did it one time, and that was pretty much the end of it. Billy never went back on it. So I don't think Billy's going in as a Philly.
I doubt that. Going in as a dirty Met is what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe an Astro.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. He could go in a bunch of different ways. He wasn't a great Met. Like he struggled with the Mets. He might have been worse with the Mets than he was with the Phils. All right. Jimmy's in his 2nd year. He's actually up 3 voters right now from guys who didn't vote for him last year. But he's only at like 13.8%. So again, he'll stay on. But he could be around where he was last year. Again, we don't know what those 5% are. So he could go down to 8, it could be up to 18. We still got 300 more ballots to be cast. So we'll see. And then there's Chase. In his 1st year on the ballot, he's about 45% right now. So by the end of it, Chase could be up around 50% of the vote in his 1st year.
Yeah.
And to me, that means by year 3 or 4, he's in. I think that's what if it takes that long. I mean, if he's at 55% of the vote this year, he could very well be in next year. So I don't know. Any initial thoughts on that? Or, we did it at the quarter mark. Maybe we'll come back at the halfway.
Yeah. I guess it would be great to know, and maybe it'll like sort of, maybe a trend will show once we start to see more and more of this, but I guess like the thing that keeps going on in my head, and listen, I want both of them to get in. I think both deserve it based on their sort of career statistical, their career totals, and obviously having a championship and all that. I feel like Chase is getting the benefit that like his ceiling was a little bit higher, like his flashes were brighter than maybe Jimmy's were. And Jimmy was just like consistently just such a good defender and a great leadoff hitter, with speed and all like the doubles numbers. And when you talk about like historically with shortstops, like shortstop's such a hard category to go up against, especially for like a smaller guy when you're looking at like what that shortstop list is. Like it's crazy the number of guys that played that position who are really, 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 really good at baseball. And like we've talked about, second baseman has, again, a top 10 list that's full of just absolute no doubters. But kind of trails off after like that. Like it's not as a consistently like great position. So it's interesting. And maybe it just does come down to that. Maybe it just comes down to positionally, like just what they ended up being. And it's just funny, like, because almost like stature wise, you would almost expect them to be flip flopped, like Jimmy's probably looks like a much more traditional second baseman, than Chase does and all that. And it's just, yeah, Jimmy fits into that like second baseman leadoff role that like you and I grew up with. It's like, that's your leadoff guy, right? Your small, quick second baseman is the guy who just slaps hits around, steals a bunch of bases, and it's just flying around all over the place. So it's interesting that it seems to really just be that it's coming down to that. And just the fact that like, look, we know when Chase flashed, he flashed bright. Um, and it's just interesting to see it kind of play out that way.
You just hit the nail on the head. It is positionally, like, these aren't looked at in the vacuum that I wish they were, right? Like, because especially when you compare them to their positions, and you compare them to the position when they played. Like, Chase, second baseman at that time, it wasn't even like a thing. Like, it wasn't even a car. It was like Brandon Phillips, Dan Ugla,
Cano.
like Jeff Kent was I'm thinking like National League specific.
Oh yeah.
Like Jeff Kent was sort of toward the end of his career at that point, right? But you can expand. Yeah, you had Cano. Other than that, like, those were your guys.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not even sure I could think of another one.
Like Boone.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there weren't many really good second basemen.
Yeah.
Now, Jimmy, on the other hand, had a lot of guys he compete with. Like, there was Jose Reyes, who was a really good player.
Yep.
Rafael Furcal was a really good player,
Yeah.
right? I know I'm missing some in the National League right now. I kind of keep my brain on the National League. Like, he was there with Jeter and A-Rod.
Right. Those were who I was going to say.
Tejada.
Yeah.
Like, these guys were
Yeah.
unreal good. Like, he came in at the end of Barry Larkin.
Yeah.
Like he, the problem for Jimmy, it's super interesting when you think about it this way. Jimmy came in and was really good, right? Like, he was really good, but he was really good at a time where there were a lot of great shortstops.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy stayed good. Like, Jimmy stayed really good. He was just always, like, Jimmy's career was Jimmy's career, right? And then on his way out, he wasn't super good anymore, and there were a lot of shortstops that were coming in that were.
Yeah.
Chase, on the other hand, came in, and it was like he punched you in the face without.
Right.
And he was so much better than every second baseman. He was so dominant at that position. Like, so dominant at that position that people have said that if, like, he stayed healthy, he might have been the greatest second baseman of all time, offensively at least.
Right.
Like, he was that good. Like, Chase was that special of a player. And he truly, like, when you look at it positionally, belongs in the hole. When you look at shortstop positionally, Jimmy doesn't really.
It's a tougher sell.
You know, it's a tougher sell. But when you look at Jimmy in the grand scope, I do think he's a Hall of Famer. And I hope that he gets his just due one day. It's going to take a lot longer than it's going to take Chase.
Yeah. Jimmy got the MVP, right? And Chase didn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Chase would have won it.
Right, but he got hurt. Yeah.
But he got hurt. And look, that's probably more opinion based, because, like, that was the year Jimmy had 20 doubles, 20 triples, 20 homers, 20 stolen bases. Like,
was it the year after that Chase started? Like, he was hitting crazy amount of home runs and then got hurt like midway through the season. Wasn't that in between Ryan and Jimmy winning? Because we thought they were going to go.
The year that Chase got hurt, when he got hit in the wrist, was the Jimmy year.
Okay.
Because they had Tadahito Iguchi.
Yeah, okay.
They had Tadahito Iguchi. Chase wasn't there for the stretch run.
Yeah.
I mean, there was always a thought that Chase was going to get it, but Chase early played so much, and then the knees caught up with him and the hip. Like, it was all like the knee issues that he couldn't overcome them.
Yeah.
You know, but he's going to get in. There's no doubt he's getting in, and he's going to go in as a Philly. I just hope Jimmy gets that call one day, because when I think about it, unfortunately, unless the Phillies change their approach or their stance, like, Chase could be the only one with his number retired from that group, because the Phillies only retire your number if you're in the Hall. And to me, Jimmy's number should be retired.
Yeah.
Ryan's number should be retired. Cole's number should be retired.
Yeah.
Like, that group was so important. They were so. I'd even, hell, dude, I'd retire Chooch. I'd retire 51 for how important he was to that team. Unfortunately, like, Chooch ain't ever going to be in the Hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he'll go on the Phillies wall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, we're hitting that point where these guys, this group's going to start getting on the wall.
Yeah.
So, and while we're on this group, happy birthday, Charlie.
There you go.
Happy 80th birthday, Charlie. We love you, big guy.
I haven't read Gelb's article yet, but it's supposed to be very
Oh, dude, get ready. Get ready.
good.
Get ready. There were definite tears shed at 135. I'll tell you that. That was a tough one. I'm so happy he's still with us, man. I'm so happy he's still with us. But yeah, so that's what we're looking at in the past here. Don't think Bobby's ever going to get there. You know, I made my case years ago. Billy will get there this year. Chase in the next 2 to 3 years, probably. Jimmy, it's going to probably take, if he gets there, it's going to take till year 9, maybe 10.
Yeah.
And it might even take the veterans committee to put him in.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. We'll see, man. There are plenty of guys that aren't in it that belong in it. Dick Allen being one. So, all right, let's talk about the current team. You wanted to talk a little bit about the lineup that you saw.
Yeah, it was interesting. Phillies Nation put out, like, just, you know, again, just for fun, a sort of projected lineup. And I, of course, sent it to you. Just being like, hey, just, you know, this is interesting. What are you thinking? We could probably talk about it on the show. I do have it pulled up.
All right,
go through it. It goes Trey, Schwarber, Casty, Harper, Bohm, Stott, JT, Marsh, Rojas.
Yeah. So I'm out almost immediately because Kyle's not leading off.
See, I'd like to start with him not.
No.
Why?
We started with that last year.
I know, but it's at some point this isn't going to work. And
it's worked the first 2 years. It's worked beautifully.
I understand. I'm a little more nervous that here's my rationale, and it's based on nothing other than I'm just like thinking of things. I kind of like, I don't know. I want Trey to be first for some sort of like just little confidence boost for him. You know what I mean? Like just a way for us to show, look, man, we know last year was weird. We get it, but you're the man. And like, this is what we think. So if I do put him first, though, I don't want Kyle second. So I would actually move Kyle down a fair bit. And the issue is, I think I'd want to go Turner. I'm just going to say mine, and then you can react and then say yours. Okay. In my head, when I first saw this, my gut reaction was Trey, Stott. I'm okay keeping Nick there. Your point was kind of well taken that maybe Bryce can protect him a little bit. So I want Trey, Stott, Casty, Harper is fine. Bohm, Schwarber. And I'm fine with the last three. I really don't care that much what that looks like. Just as long as JT is at least 7th.
Okay.
And just have Schwarber serve as like the Casty role for the second half of the season. Just a guy down there who's just mashing all these dudes around the plate. And like, oh yeah, you've just gotten through Trey Turner, Bryson Stott, Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper, and Alec Bowman. Oh, here's Kyle Schwarber right after that.
Yeah.
I understand that there's a very good chance that that doesn't work out, but this is just my...
I'm going to tell you right now, Topper's leading off Schwarber.
I understand that. I'm not like, again, am I going to really argue that? Like, no, I'm not. I'm just like, when I first saw this, it's just, this was my, hey, this would be cool if we did this.
And I'm going to be honest with you. If everybody thinks that Kyle's not your typical leadoff hitter, I got news for you. He's 100% not your typical 2-hole hitter.
Yeah, I don't like him in the 2-hole at all.
So if we're leading off Trey, then Bryce should be hitting second. Bryce should be hitting second for multiple, if that's the case. One, it provides you your lefty right behind him. 2, he's the best hitter on the team. Get him as many at bats as he can. Hit him second. And then you can try like Nick third or Bohm third, and let Kyle hit cleanup and just see. But I don't like Kyle there. Like people want to complain about strikeouts, right? Like, oh, he strikes out too much. I certainly don't want him hitting cleanup if he strikes out too much. Like, that's not the out you want your cleanup hitter having.
That's a fair point.
I like it. Just because he hits a lot of home runs doesn't necessarily. For me, I will always love the pitcher's mentality having to be, well, I got to be careful because if I throw him a first pitch fastball, he could hit it in the second deck, and that's a tough way to start a game. Like to me, Kyle Schwarber, again, speed be gone, right? Like he's not fast. Dude is on base a lot. He's on base a lot. Like between his hits and his walks this year, he was on base 200 times. That's a lot. In terms of that like cleanup spot with Casty, I don't hate it. Or the 3-hole, sorry. I don't hate it. I hate it a little bit more sitting second. I don't love the righty thing. Like you have the alternate guys, let Bryce hit third, and then do your like cleanup with a right-handed bat. I'd go with the same lineup that I had in the postseason. Like I would just go back to it. Like I do Schwarbs, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Stott, JT. I might do. I'd probably do Nick, then Brandon hitting 8th, and then Rojas hitting. Like,
I don't think Nick's would enjoy being down there to start the season. I would guess.
Well, then hit and we'll move you up. But like,
listen. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just
no. I know. Well, again, like that's got to be a self-reflection, and he seems like a guy. If he hits, he'll hit higher in the order. I just think, it's hard to project right now because I still think they're gonna make a move. That being said, we talked about this a little bit before the show. Harrison Bader signed with the Mets today. 1 year, $10.5 million. Harrison Bader stinks, Regz. I'm gonna tell you this right now. He will absolutely get back-breaking hits against the Phillies because he's the type of player who breaking hits against. But the move's confusing to me because Harrison Bader's only plus is his center field defense. And they already have Brandon Nimmo.
I was about to say, where's Nimmo going?
So unless the plan is to move Nimmo to left.
Well, yeah, because they got rid of what's his face.
Like, I don't know what the plan is. And Bader's hurt all the time.
Yeah.
So if that's what an injury-prone, defensive-oriented center fielder is going for, I'm a little worried about what a guy like Duvall's going to cost.
Yeah.
And if this is what we're looking at in terms of money spent, I'd rather use that money toward a starter and a reliever and just let our really young, cheap, defensive-minded, light-hitting center fielder get reps. And if he's struggling come the trade deadline, you go and make a move then. But like, no, thank you. If that's what a guy like Harrison Bader's going for, I'm not interested in that market at all.
Yeah.
Like at all. So, they seem to be, slow. Scott Lauber wrote the article saying the moves are coming. I tend to think those moves are in the rotation unless something pops up with an outfielder that's going to be on the cheap.
Do you think there's like a bench piece out there?
They do need to upgrade they need another bench piece. Because they are very short on the bench right now. It's and
that dude from the Pirates can't be on the bench anymore. Castro or whatever his name is.
No, I think he has an option. So
he's terrible.
Yeah. Rodolfo Castro. It's right now it's Cave, Stubbsy, and Sosa.
Yeah.
So they definitely, if not one bench piece, they need two.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a year ago, come Sunday, that he made the trade for Soto. So again, it could very well be a trade that's coming for a player. You might get one or two of them. But Scott Lauber said the moves are coming, and Dave said that they're not standing pat. They're just being patient. And I have no problem with patience. I think, other teams are, being a little bit more aggressive, and that's okay. Like the Braves trading for Chris Sale and then signing him to a 2-year extension.
What was that?
Like, the trade is one thing.
Yeah.
Like, you want to take that low
Right,
risk, high
right.
reward type thing, like go for it. But giving him $19 million a year without seeing him, you must have some real Nostradamus
In what world
abilities.
is Chris Sale worth $19 million?
Yeah, I guess if we're back in 2016,
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. If he's healthy, yeah. I mean, look, great, but like that's a risk, man. That's a huge risk that you're throwing $20 million at this guy. So
After
I
just
think teams
losing
are,
2 starters in the playoffs to injury.
yeah, you're putting a lot of stock in Chris Sale and Charlie Morton.
Yeah.
I mean, Strider and Fried are, they're two of the best top two in the league. But Fried could walk after this year.
Yeah.
And then Elders at the back of the rotation. I mean, they got some kids, but I don't know. We'll see. Very odd offseason.
Yeah.
But I do think, I'd rather that $10.5 million not go toward an outfielder. We have an answer in center field. If we feel like he can hit a little bit, like, dude, like 230, 240 in this lineup should be fine.
Well, I mean,
with the defense
we
standpoint.
saw in the regular season he could at least hold his own a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it
It's all
obviously,
going to come down to just being selective.
yeah,
That's all.
and look, I think they're very aware of the improvements that he has to make.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think everyone is, but of course they are even more tuned into that than we even are. So,
Yeah.
like, we want to see his swing get shorter. You've talked about his sort of pitch recognition and, all that kind of stuff. So, it really is just going to come down to that. If, again, I think we've seen him manage, like, figure it out during the regular season. And let's be honest, that's all you need this guy to do is just be able to figure it out during the regular season so you can see what you have and see if something might be different.
Yeah. And then come postseason, he's just got to be able to stand there and make contact. He just didn't make any contact this postseason. It was like
he should spend
truly
half
unbelievable.
his offseason bunting.
Yeah. God,
It's like, good Lord.
He can fly. I mean, we'll see him bunt quite a bit during a regular
He just
season.
needs to be better at it.
Yeah. So I'd expect another starter and that'll be the offseason.
On the other
Maybe,
starter
you know,
thing,
bench
who do
piece.
you think? Because we got to talk about who you think it might be. I don't
Yeah.
think we can just sort of say another starter with the guys that are still out there.
Yeah.
And what people are talking about.
Yeah. So Blake Snell's still out there. Jordan Montgomery's still out there. That Imaga guy, Imanaga, from Japan, he's still out there. Trevor Bauer's still out there. Honestly, I'd be good with all four of them. I think, if they've done their homework on I feel badly if I'm saying this. Pretty sure it's Imanaga.
I'll look it up.
But like, yeah, you look that up. But like, if it's him, they've done their homework. He's fine. He can slot into that 4 spot. Obviously, getting a guy like Trevor Bauer would be pretty freaking awesome. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball before all the accusations.
Didn't you say that the Braves were getting him?
Yeah, someone tweeted it the other day, but nothing ever came
all
of
right.
it. Especially when I saw the money, I was like, "That's odd. 4 years, $110 million. That doesn't sound like a Braves contract." Especially for a guy who hasn't pitched in the States in like 3 years. So Bauer would be a cool little signing. Snell would be good, I think, as long as there's limitations on the deal. Like I'd give him an opt out after 2 years. And Jordan Montgomery, yeah, he was great in the postseason for the Rangers. So Sure, I'd be good with that. I think there are plenty of good names out there, but I do believe the Phillies need another starter for depth purposes.
Yeah.
Right now, they're 5 or they're 5. Like there's nothing behind
Yeah.
those 5.
You are correct.
And
Imanaga is the correct way to say it.
Imanaga. Okay. All right. So that I do want them to grab another starter so that they can push Sanchez to triple. There's your 6th guy, right? Then Abel becomes your 7th. Or Covey becomes your 7th, whatever. Nelson is there. Like, you start pushing guys back that you don't necessarily have to worry about. You hope throughout the year that you go to 7 starters max.
Yeah.
Like that you have to reach into 7. If you're getting to 8 where the Phillies had to go last year, then you're really in a place, right? Like, and the Phillies had to do that to start last year.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really hoping only to touch like the 7th spot in the rotation.
Yeah.
So they're right now they're at 5 and then it jumps right to like Covey. Not who I want as my 6th. So,
Please no. Please no.
Yeah. I think that's definitely on the radar. Before we jump to the other team that we unfortunately have to talk about, Fangraphs did their prospect list.
Yes.
They released it today. Some interesting names found their way on here. Obviously, Painter was number 1. Abel was number 2, so he'll be on that list. The shortstop that I've talked about, Starling Caba, is on here. He's number 3. He actually jumped a bunch of guys. He was like 7 or 8 last year. And we'll get our good buddy Brian Doc Hamill before the year starts to give us our I'd like to use him a little more this year. We wanted to bring him on last year. We'll have to do that this year. But I want to get him on and talk about some of these guys. Aiden Miller's number 4. Brian Rincon, who we've talked about here, is number 5. Crawford dropped to 7, which I found interesting. Kerkering dropped to 8. And then, the rest of it, they're not a deep system. So some of these names we've sort of talked about on here. Rinconis is on here. De La Cruz is on here. When he Penn is on here. Penn. Gary's number 25. That's a big fall. William Bergola, my boy William Bergola is on here.
Yep.
At 13. So,
is Miller being 4 crazy?
Crazy isn't good or bad.
No, I mean like crazy good for him. Like, yeah, that's great.
Honestly, I've seen lists that have him as high as. So no, I think that's about right. He's a top 5 prospect for sure. I think he's going to be a top 100.
I was about to say, I wonder where he lists out altogether.
Yeah. I think he'll be a top 100 guy. They might get a couple this year. I think Caba has a chance too. Once he gets rolling, that dude is already major league ready defense. Like he's that good.
There you go.
It's like having Rojas, but at shortstop. Like that's how good he is defensively.
Okay.
And I think he's only 17.
Whoa,
so
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I didn't see this.
What?
MLB is our first set of predictions. They predicted Bryce Harper would be the NL MVP.
Listen, man, I do think he's gonna go off. Like he's 18. Cobb is 18. I do think he's gonna go off this year. Like I think we're getting angry Bryce for all 162.
Yeah.
I think we're getting angry Bryce for 162.
It's fun.
Which is really bad news for everybody.
Love me some angry Bryce.
I think we're getting angry Bryce. So
yeah. And then the last thing I think I sent you, and this just popped up as we were talking about the other stuff, they put out their first 2024 power rankings. Had the Phillies 5th behind in order: Braves, Dodgers, Rangers, Orioles, Phillies.
Yeah, and my message you back, like the Rangers, they deserve that based on what they did last year. Like that's a very fair place to be. The Braves haven't, they're until someone shows them they're not the best team in the National League or the best team in baseball record wise, they're going to be put there. Dodgers made the 2 biggest acquisitions of the offseason. So they're clearly going to be there too. I do anticipate the Orioles stepping back a little bit. I know they're super talented. But that division's always weird. Like one of those
I
teams
just don't know
will
if they
take a
have the.
step
I just
forward.
don't know if they have the pitching. Like
Yeah,
they're
I
kind of
think they got a little bit of a fool's gold last year with some of that pitching doing what it did. They
I mean,
can
look,
hit.
the other guys are the
can
hitters,
hit.
the fielders and hitters are
Yeah.
nuts. Like they're
Yeah, they can hit.
fantastic.
And Jackson Holiday will be here this year.
Yes,
So
yes, he will.
he will be here. But I do think the Phillies. I think the Phillies could arguably have been third on that list. I can see MLB putting out power rankings and saying, well, I can't have 3 NL teams
Yeah,
in the top 3 right off the bat, right? But it is good to see the Phillies getting a little bit of respect there because I think a lot of people just write them off as, well, I will go to bat.
it's a little bit shocking to see them above like Houston and the Yankees, because usually those teams are the ones
The Yankees got Juan Soto and that's it. They haven't done anything else.
Yeah.
Like they have not improved the biggest flaw in their team, which is pitching. The Astros weren't great last year and they haven't done anything to get better this year.
Yeah.
I know the Diamondbacks were in there. I'm glad to see they didn't put them ahead of the Phillies. That would have pissed me off. But to me, the Phillies, I've said this before, they were a 90-win team without Bryce Harper for 2 months, without Trey Turner. It's like without 2/5 of their starting rotation for 2 months. They're a really good baseball team. And if they're going to come out and play the type of baseball that I believe they can from beginning of April till end of, I think they're a 95 win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any question about that. So if they can stay healthy and which they have not been,
Yeah.
they were not healthy last year in the bullpen in the rotation. Their best player, Trey might as well have been hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they had to figure out the outfield. Like they didn't really have a left fielder.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jake Cave was playing a lot of innings out there.
So was Edmundo Sosa.
Yeah. And no Reese. Like these were the things they didn't have last year.
Yeah.
And still won 90 games. 90 games. So yeah, just get through spring training healthy and let's ride. We'll see what they do in terms of the pitching, but we'll keep you abreast of everything. I don't know if this week we're gonna have much to talk about in Phillies land, but we'll see. Let's jump over to the Birds to wrap up here. Look, I don't know what to say about the Arizona game other than it was the stamp on the page of embarrassment that this season has become. When they were up 2 scores at halftime, I was feeling really good. Like I was like, the offense has got it today. Like they finally look like they're, coming together offensively. Like I don't love the way the defense is playing against the run, but they got the interception that put some energy into them, and then they came out and holy crap. I mean, look, James Conner's a good running back. I'm not here to say, but he is not Walter freaking Payton.
Yeah.
And they couldn't tackle him, and tackling hasn't been an issue for them for most of the year. Like they have not. They're actually, in terms of missed tackles, like top 3 in that category. Like they were going into last week. I think they're probably out of that now. But they were only behind like Dallas and one other team in that category. So like that hasn't been an issue for them. And all of a sudden against the Cardinals, it was. Regz, I don't like saying this because I don't want it to be true, but I do feel like a part of that, they just thought they were going to walk in there and win. That's the way it felt to me. It just felt like it when they had the 2-score lead at half, they came back out of half and like, it was like, we're going to cruise.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. I don't know. I mean, Jonathan Gannon took the literal playbook from the Commanders Like, he was like, we're just going to run the ball and keep the ball away from your offense.
Mm-hmm.
And then he outcoached him with the onside kick. Jonathan Gannon outcoached Nick Sirianni at the link. Who the hell would have written that script?
Yeah. Yeah, this was a weird one just because it was one of the rare games this season that wasn't on TV down here. So I was like, I feel like I have a very muted reaction because I was just like watching on like the game cast and not truly understanding like what was happening other than they were not stopping. They gave up 29 points in the second half or 19 points or whatever it was. So it was difficult to like get a true feel for how the game was going, how people looked, like the body language. Again, I wasn't getting any of that. It was just like following on Twitter and following on the ESPN thing. So it's been interesting this week to hear everyone talk about it, listen to a lot of like the player interviews, stuff like that. I think it was just like the worst kind of culmination on this shit sandwich, that Gannon at home just comes and like takes our lunch money and just like it was just the worst kind of like, man, that really isn't what we needed right now.
I mean, they got torched by a dude with the last name Dorch.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to rhyme that, but that's what happened. I mean, it was just bad everywhere. And honestly, body language wasn't terrible until the possession on the onside kick. Because you're sitting there and you're like, all right, we're gonna win it here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're gonna kill the clock, we're gonna win, and we're gonna escape, and we'll find an excuse for why everything happened. Right? But then they ran QB. I don't remember if it was a read option or QB power. I think it was a read option. Jalen kept it and broke it outside. Or maybe
I think he handed
Swifty.
off that
no,
one. It was Swift.
Yeah. Swifty broke it outside. And Mailata held. And he honestly, like, I listened to Kelsey talk in that situation, like, you're stuck.
Yeah.
If you don't hold, it's a loss, maybe a turnover. You hope you get away with it, right? He didn't. So they go to 1st and 20. And then again, Kelsey sort of defended these play calls. It's a play that's worked. They only got 4 out of it. Then they ran another version of it, like a read option to the left side. Jalen kept it, lost 4. And then they ran the screen on 3rd and 20. And a lot of the conversation from that has been, well, we had to get in the field goal range to guarantee ourselves some yards. So why not throw that play on 2nd? Why not throw it on 1st and 20? Get your yards there.
Yeah.
Because to me, we're just coming off a week where Jalen converted a 3rd and 20. They've converted a lot of these things because Jalen is able to buy time. He's able to find guys. He's able to make those throws under scrutiny, under pressure. So get the yards early. And when you got them on 1st and 20, when you got 4 back, throw the ball. Like, give AJ Brown the freaking ball in space. Get to a 3rd and manageable. Like, I swear to God, the most underutilized dude on this roster is Devontae Smith. Like, the only time we use him is the block on this goddamn screenplay that almost ended his season. Like, give him the ball in space. Like, these two dudes after the catch are so slippery. Yeah. But yet we don't give them the ball in situations where they can run after the catch.
Yeah.
That possession, that's where the body language changed. Like, AJ walked off the field shaking his head. Now, he said yesterday in his press conference, that he was shaking his head because Devontae was down.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I need Devontae for this run. Like, I've got to have Devontae on the other side. By the way, Devontae off the crutches today, which is huge.
Yes.
But look, AJ also said this, like, y'all want to look at me and look at my body language. I wasn't the only one with bad body language. The whole stadium had bad body language. The whole stadium's ticked off. Like, but it's look at AJ, look at AJ, look at AJ. I'm like, gosh, we are so good at pointing the finger at our own guys. Like the media especially. I mean, that hit piece from Marcus Hayes about AJ Brown and how he put a rift in the locker room, but then Marcus couldn't show up yesterday when AJ said he was speaking. He couldn't show up. Like, this is what happens in this city. This is what happens. I was going to do this for Phixated, so I guess you're getting a little bit now. Like, what is wrong with no one hates the players more than and no one hates the media more than the fans. Like, it's just a vicious circle. Like, there are very few media members. I love Zach Berman. I could listen to Zach Berman talk about this team all day. I think he does a great job talking to players. I think he writes very fair articles. Same with Bo Wolf. Like, I think they do a really nice job. Les Bowen writes on his own now. I think he does a nice. Like, I miss like the old school writers in this town because these guys, man, like they're just throwing stuff at the wall. Some of them, and it's really frustrating. Like we're fortunate with the Phillies. We don't have like Zalecki, Alex, Gilb. Like these guys are all like, but like Marcus Hayes, get out of here with that, man. Like, so when I heard AJ talk yesterday, I'm kind of jumping the Arizona game. It is what it is. They got beat by one of the worst teams in football. They've said that. But AJ yesterday came out and spoke after not speaking for some time. And honestly, man, I left feeling a lot better about the locker room. I don't know if it's going to be the turnaround. Like, I don't know if I'm there. I think there's still so many holes on this team. But I've also been on teams where that really loosens you up. That helps you get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
And this team just needs to have fun again, man. Like, they're not having fun. Like, even when they scored against Arizona, they were like all business. Like, go back to having a good time. And I feel like AJ cleared a lot of that discomfort yesterday, like that wonderment. Your thoughts? I've been talking a little bit.
No, I think there's two sides to this. A lot of the players have come out and put it on themselves and the execution of the plays being called as to what's causing these things not to be successful. I think that's good of them to do that. I think it shows that they're not willing to throw their coaches under the bus. But I still think it's like the play calling and the scheming is still an issue.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the best offenses, they do the things that get their best players in the most advantageous positions to be successful.
Yeah.
This current offensive scheme does not do that. Mm-hmm. And I thought someone else, when talking about the screenplay, at least said, well, they read pressure and that's our read. Like that's our audible when pressure's coming. It's like, well, that's not good enough. You know what I mean? Like that's just not. Say what you will about
or a go route.
Right. But say what you will about executing. Like that's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's not good enough when you see Jalen's passing charts are just from here and out. Right. It's just like, it's just not good enough. So I think there's two things. I think they're right when certain plays are being called, they're not executing them to the best of their ability. But I also think that the current scheme does not always put them in the most advantageous positions to take advantage of their skill sets. Mm-hmm. So like both of those things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think we can appreciate the fact that the players are willing to put it on them. Because like we've seen plenty of players when they really don't like a coach, just be like, yeah, he's giving us nothing. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like we've seen this happen. We've seen this story, not only with the Eagles, but on any like
just football.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
football, I think you see that quite often. Like, just like ask them,
Right.
ask them.
Yep. So I think both can be true.
Mhm.
I think it was good of AJ to come out and acknowledge that he shouldn't have had his teammates answering questions on his own behalf. I think it was good that he had said himself that I spoke to the team, like, apologize for putting them in that position. I think it was also very good of him to come out and defend Nick the way he did. Because I think, and we talked about this before we started, but like a lot of this conversation about like, should Nick be here anymore? Has he kind of run his course with this team? All that kind of stuff. It's like when your star receiver is willing to call himself out for a very important play that his coach took a dive for him on, like, that doesn't always happen. And I think I tweeted this, like, we've seen what a toxic receiver looks like. Like, we know this from firsthand experience. That is not what AJ Brown is.
No.
Like, it's just not.
No.
Are there always going to be little things with wide receivers? Yes. Like, it's just the nature of that position. Like, it's just going to happen sometimes. There's going to be body language. There's going to be times they're upset. Like, it is what it is. It is like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But like, for him to come out and be, share how much he respects Nick Sirianni and the kind of coach he is and the kind of guy he is, I think allowed everyone to just kind of be like, okay, well, we know the offense isn't where it needs to be. But we're not pressing the self-detonate button just yet. I do think ultimately they're going to need a real, like, bona fide offensive coordinator to come in. I just think that Nick, for as much as we brought him in for his like offensive, acumen, it's very clear he doesn't want to call the plays. He obviously will still be involved in it, but like, I don't think he's I think he wants to be the culture guy and the guy who is setting up everyone to like be successful. I don't think if you brought in a well-established, like, bring frickin' Bellamy over here. Why would he want to be in Washington when he could come over here and coach this team?
He's probably gonna be ahead.
I know. I'm just saying, like, but a guy like that, like somebody that you could bring in that you've seen can like go anywhere and figure out how to make less talented rosters semi-successful. They're not a juggernaut in Washington. I understand that, but like, he certainly is going to try shit and like do everything in his power to set up to get the most talent out of his group. So I just think I'm happy that AJ finally spoke up, that it can all kind of like be like, back. Okay, can we just like, let's just get back to focusing on trying to play better football instead of this whole like the house is falling down kind of thing. But like, they still have a fatal flaw, and that's just they're not very good on defense right now. So like, it's great that AJ came out and said all that, like, but it's not making James Bradbury any better. Right. It's not it's not making our linebackers better. It's not making our defensive line any less tired, or things like that. Like, it just, that stuff is going to be what it's going to be.
So a couple things I just wanted to just talking about there, and I think it's starting with Nick. Like, there's been a lot of, is he on the hot seat? Is he on the hot seat? I mean, it would really be organizational negligence unless like they're killing each other on the sideline in a blowout loss in the.
I even think it would take a true player mutiny.
Yeah, I don't think you can get rid of a guy who came in after a 4-win season and has taken this team to the playoffs 3 times, already has a Super Bowl appearance, was a possession away from winning it, is going to have back-to-back double-digit win season.
Yeah, I think AJ talking today put that to rest.
Yeah,
honestly, because it was going to take the players, and a lot of them, like, making it very clear that they were done with him. And I
Look,
just don't
when I
think
heard
that's the
that,
case.
when I heard Nick's press conference after the Seahawks game, I had so many people texting me like, "What an idiot! Pass interference." And I'm
Yeah.
like, seriously, guys, Nick says some dumb stuff. I don't believe that he believes what he said.
Yeah.
Like there's something there. Like that is so far beyond even Nick's. It makes no sense. And sure enough, AJ put that whole thing to rest. Like there's no way he's throwing that ball. He's telling them to look, throw it up and hope to get past him.
Yeah.
No way. Like that was never the plan. The other thing that you said was they're gonna have to go unless Brian Johnson leaves Regz, or unless Howie and Jeffrey come down and say, like, you have to do this or you're gone. Like you have to get a new OC or you're gone. I think Brian Johnson's back. And here's how they can sell it. Not that I believe this, but here's how they can sell it. Well, we have 2,000-yard receivers. We have a 4,000-yard passer. We have a 1,000-yard running back. AJ Brown had the best year of his career. So the offense works. And again, I'm not here selling that. That's not Mike. That's not Azzy. That's me saying this is what they can say and say, no, you're all wrong. The offense works because look at all the things that went well. And we were 7 in total offensive DVOA. Well, you should be top 3.
Yeah, I was about to say that might show a level of delusion that I'm not quite prepared for.
Yeah, but there's going to be a bunch of people who will buy it. There will be again, we have a very smart fan base, but the people who aren't. And they can sell that. They can say that. And not that I believe it, but the other hope for me is Brian Johnson gets a head coaching job. That's all I can hope for. I will say this, they will have a new defensive coordinator. So let's jump over there. Because there's no way it's going to be Sean. There's no Patricia. We did find out today, I don't know if it was a Freudian or they're just ready to admit it, but Hassan Reddick basically said, like, we're running a different defense than we were with Sean.
Yeah.
Like we have a new coordinator who is wanting us to do different things, and we got to figure it out. And we got to figure it out.
Oh yeah, he's also not very happy.
No, because they're not using him in
back in coverage sometimes.
Yeah. So, but he came out and basically blew their cover. And well, this is still Sean Desai's defense. It's clear.
Yeah, I think most people could put that together.
So here's some of the issues that I'm having right now. I hear a lot of like Jordan Davis, as a not fraud, flop. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah. And I want everybody to just chill for a second. Like I saw a tweet yesterday with like, we drafted this guy, but we should have drafted that guy. We drafted this guy. And again, I'm the biggest Kyle Hamilton dude that you'll find. But like everybody was pumped about Jordan Davis when no one was mad. You can't do the hindsight thing. Like I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow you to call fraudulent or flop or, and saying, well, I knew all along. You know what? He's not going to be that good in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fine in the NFL. As a matter of fact, he's already the best safety. But like this whole like Jordan Davis is out of shape. This is overweight. Like he's exhausted. Yeah, I'm sure he is exhausted. He's played an exorbitant amount of snaps this year. And here's the other thing, Regz. He's double teamed unbelievably more than anybody in the NFL.
Well, yeah, that's also based on his like over half a season performance when he was an absolute monster.
Yeah,
and
so he's
gobbling up people left and right.
But you know what the problem is about him being double teamed? We don't have a linebacker to come and take advantage of that.
Yeah,
because they've neglected it. So I think for me, it's like why is this part of the conversation? Like, now with Zach Cunningham hopefully coming back here soon, he made a huge difference
Mm-hmm.
in the run game. He's a really good run stopping linebacker. And not having him, we've seen what that's done.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fair to just attack Jordan Davis. Here's a tweet that I saw. Jordan Davis is seeing one of the highest percentages of double teams on runs for a defensive lineman this year, not just an Eagles defense, in the NFL. The fact the Eagles don't have one linebacker that can come up and fill a hole is an absolute failure from Howie Roseman. Agreed. Can bring up injuries if you want, but his answer to linebacker was relying on Nakobe Dean, who fell to the middle of the third round because of injuries. And then a group of Nicholas Moreau, Zach Cunningham, Miles Jack, and Christian Ellis. Dean played one game. Moreau shouldn't be on a roster. Cunningham was picked up off the street in August. Miles Jack retired to be a plumber, literally. And Christian Ellis was waived for no reason when there was about 5 other options on the roster that made more sense. It goes on to say, like, Howie's still the best executive in the game, but, like, he needs to change he needs to adapt.
Yeah.
It's time to get a true legitimate linebacker on this roster. Simple as that. Like, it's time. Like, a dude who can come in and be a dude. I'm done, man. Like, I'm done. And I'm also done with, like, Avonte Maddox. And, like, we depend on him every year, but every year he's hurt. And we're scraping to find a nickel. This defense we need like 6 new starters on defense.
Yeah.
Like, we need 6 new starters.
It needs an overhaul. Not only scheme wise with a new coordinator, it needs an overhaul. It needs to take a real long look at James Bradbury and
he's gone.
Truly think about if that guy should even be on the roster anymore.
He's gonna be gone. He's gonna be gone. They'll do the post June 1 cut.
Yeah.
He's gone.
And yeah, Howie needs to change. Like, he's set up the defensive line that you now need to make the other stuff the priority. Like, you've spent the time, and listen, Jordan Davis, and you can put, like, Jalen Carter has played more snaps this year than college, like, almost combined. It's like these guys, like Jordan Davis this is his second year.
Yep.
Like, they came in with a lot of pressure on them to be very good quickly. They were very good for 9-10 weeks.
Yeah.
And look, they've just, like, it takes, we saw enough in those first 10 weeks to know what these guys can do. Look, is it still on them to maybe get in better shape, to maybe understand that, like, this is how the NFL season goes sometimes? Like, yeah, this is how it goes sometimes. So I'm not saying that they're sort of scot-free or that they won't still have things to improve on. But you're in year 2 of one guy and literally year 1 of another.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Did they hit some walls? Yes. Can you translate that into the sort of the snap counts and just the inability of the Eagles defense to get off the field in any critical situation? Yes. That also contributes to a lot of the things you just talked about. So it's not
lots of snaps when you can't get off the field in third down.
It's not just those guys. Like, it's just not. But look, that's not, like, they need to understand that this is what an NFL season could be like sometimes, and you have to be ready to play at a high level all the time. Like, you're not judged on, how did your first 4 weeks go? You're judged on how did you do every week. So I'm not worried about that kind of stuff.
No, I just, it is time to have a, and I think Howie asks a lot of his coaches to adapt.
Yeah.
It's the reason why Doug Peterson left. So I think, it's only fair for him to adapt
absolutely.
And go get a linebacker who can be a difference maker.
And a safety that's good. And, a couple things.
Yeah. I feel like they'll bring Byard back next year. Just because
he hasn't looked great.
No, but I mean, honestly, like, again, think about it. Think about what the dude came into, right?
Yeah.
Like he came in, he was trying to adjust to a new team and a new defense, and then as soon as he adjusts to that, there's another new defense. So he's a veteran, and they don't have a lot of that. So I would I'd bring him back and run it back and give Sidney maybe just be like one of those rover type defenders that I think he's meant to be. So let's talk about week 18 real quick. We're not going to preview the Giants game because we don't really know what, and that's sort of what we wanted to talk about. There are a couple schools of thought here. Let me give you the injury today. Devontae Smith was the only player who did not practice. And likely won't practice or play this weekend with the ankle, which is fine. Jordan Davis was limited, Slay was limited, Cunningham full, Avante full, Reddick full. So they're basically at a point where they've got everybody. Devontae will be ready for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like that's been made pretty clear. But and we can go into the scenarios here too. We can mix a little bit. A Dallas win at 4:30 and the Eagles are out anyway.
Right.
They're the 5th seed.
Right.
And I just don't see them losing to Washington. Washington's not trying to win.
Right.
So I don't see Washington winning. It looks like Tampa's gonna be the game. Like that's what, unless by some miracle they lose to Carolina this weekend, they're gonna be the game, which means that the Eagles would line up in the if they were to win, they'd likely have the Cowboys or the Niners, depending on if like Detroit gets upset.
Yeah.
Or if the Cowboys were to get upset, then they could have Detroit. Like there's a variety of different things that could happen. Most likely they're heading to San Francisco. If everything goes kind of according to what you'd expect. So the 5 seed seems fine to me. Like, yeah, I wanted to win the division. The fallout definitely makes it a little bit more difficult to swallow. But I'd be cool settling on the 5 seed. At the same time, the argument could be made that they just need to play well one time before they go to the playoffs. Like they just need to feel good. I don't feel great about a guy like Zach Cunningham playing in this game on that field in the snow when he's been their best linebacker this year.
Yeah.
I really don't want guys like Brandon Graham playing in this, who's been one of their biggest high motor guys. I don't want Fletcher Cox, who's been their best player, playing in this game. I certainly don't want Darius Slay playing in this after knee surgery.
Yeah.
But, he came out today and said, like, we need to be out there. Like, we need to get out there and we need to play a full game. So, Regz, like, knowing the scenarios are what they are, knowing what this team has looked like, and there's also this, like, what do you think rest would do for these guys? Like, Reddick not playing a week, like, getting a full week off. Like, Sweat getting a full week off. Like, recharge your batteries a little. Like, they haven't had they have gone through hell since their bye week. Like their bye week was to prepare them for literal. I almost want them to have a bye week here.
Yeah.
Like play them all a quarter.
Yeah.
Like let them play a quarter.
That's where I'm at. I think you give them a quarter and then you're like, sorry guys. Like everyone, like we just went through that 7-game stretch. We thought we got through it. It got worse, and like, you guys have played too much, especially on the defense. Like you guys have played too much already. You played more snaps than you did all last year, and we still have the playoffs to get through. So like
it's just tough because they clearly have to clean stuff up. They have to get on the same page.
Yeah.
The only way to do that is game action. But like this is the wrong place to be playing in week 18. And I don't want Lane Johnson out there. And I don't want like Jordan Mailata or Jason, let Jason Kelsey take his one step and get him the hell off the field.
Yeah.
Like, let him take his one snap and get him out of there. Like, but it's just been so non-committal. Like, I don't know that he knows what the best, and I don't blame him. Like, truly, I'd understand either way. Like, I would not rip his head off either way. Like, I would get it if they're out there for a full half or a full game. Because they need to be on the same page. They need to feel good about things. But I'd also get it if he's like, nope, we're starting Mariota. We're going to basically run Boston Scott all day. Like,
activate Penny. Let him run all day.
Rashad Penny's going to be out here. Tyler Steen's playing left tackle.
Yeah.
Like, Quez Watkins is on the outside. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are... This would not surprise me or anger me.
Yeah. I think especially defensively, I think those guys need a blow.
I think a blow would do much more for them than...
I agree.
If you're saying the pass rush is what's going to win you football games,
those guys need a break.
You need to give those guys the week to recover.
Yep.
Like, give them a quasi bye.
Yeah.
And let them get their legs back a little bit. And you're hoping that you're traveling to a decent weather Florida and not the pouring down rain type of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you played there last time, it was shitty. But you give yourself a little bye, and maybe you win the way that you did against Tampa the first time, and that's the confidence game. That's the boost that you need going into the divisional round.
Right.
I'm on the side of, offense, don't even let them play. Don't put any of them out there. Defense, maybe they get one possession, one drive, and then they're all on the bench, every one of them, and you're playing all, second string, third string dudes, and Bradbury, he can play.
Yeah, leave him out there.
Fine. He can play, because what I really need is Darius Slay and Keely Ringo. So. I don't know, man. We'll see. I don't even really want to do a prediction. Like, we're not going to do a key. We're just gonna let it be what it is, and we'll do the full roundup next week.
We will see what happens.
We'll see what happens is right. All right, everybody. Well, that is that. We're not even gonna do a fixate because I get. And if you're gonna say something, show up to back it up. That's it. Plain and simple. Like, Jim Salisbury stood on what he said. Never back down. Marcus Hayes, man up. Man up. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. We will be back. Regz and I are going to talk about this. I'm supposed to travel on Sunday, but I don't know the weather, which might mean traveling on Monday, which means not coming back until Thursday night. So we'll talk about it. We'll either be on your streams on Friday morning or Saturday morning for the playoff preview. But until then, make sure you're following us. Click subscribe on the box below if you're watching on YouTube. Go to wherever you get your podcasts to subscribe, like, rate, do all those things. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram at B&B Podcast. Follow us on Twitter there, or at the Phixated Podcast.
Attaboy.
Make sure you go and follow if you are not. It is a new handle. Make sure you get over and do it.
Yes, please.
And then the Phixated fan page on Facebook as well. Make sure you click the merchandise link in the description below. Until we talk to you next time, be good to yourself. Be good to one another. We will talk soon. Dave, do something. And birds, also do something.
Just nobody get hurt. That's all we need.
Deep to right field, way up there, and way out of here. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.